So, dear students, today we are going to start with our first topic, and that is what? The living world. Okay? So, in this living world, as you know that generally what is happening, at least one question that can be there in NEET exam. Okay? So, taking into that consideration, here we can find one question. And what are those areas from where we are going to find out that question. Okay, we are just going to do that itself. Okay, so let us see the first thing. Now, here we are revising our certain points. Okay, and what are those points? That we already have learned all those things in class 11. So here we are just going to discuss the main points. Okay, you know that in this whole world there are a large number of organisms that are found. Okay, they may be the plants, they may be the animals, they may be the microorganisms. Okay, some of them they are visible. Okay, just like the plants and animals, generally they are visible. But when it comes to the microorganisms, you will be able to see them with the help of what? Only with the help of microscope. Okay, so the first point is, if you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, your plants, or other animals and plants. Okay, and all these things, okay, they are present in an area. Okay, you can study in that area, but just suppose here in this classroom, only we people are here. No other plant and animal is here. But what can be here? Here can be mosquito or the housefly. And what is the common name of this scientific name of housefly? That is the Musca domestica. Okay, we have to remember this thing because very recently in 2023 we have seen one question about this Musca domestica or the housefly. Okay, so just suppose if you are going to any jungle, in that forested area of jungle you will find more animals or the plants. Okay, in comparison to the any urban area where you generally see that only the buildings are there, or very sparsely you may see that there are potted plants. Okay, but in jungle or in the forested area you may see a large number of animals as well as plants. So that's why obviously if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Okay, so this point is saying this thing. Okay, so let us move to the next point. Okay. So here we see that each individual, when you are looking at, so those individuals are representing one species. Just we see here, we human beings. Okay, we human beings, we are known as what? Homo sapiens. Clear? So we human beings are Homo sapiens, or an individual that is representing what? That is representing an species. Okay, similarly, just you can take one plant example, that is the Triticum estabile. Triticum estabile means what? That is the wheat. Okay, so you can take that wheat into account, or you can just take the Musca domestica into account, okay, or the human beings. Okay, so that's why this first line says that each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that you see will represent a species. Okay, now we know that each individual, okay, that may represent one species. Okay, there may be one individual that is representing one species. But if we look at that in this whole world, how many species are found? Okay, so in that case you can see that there are approximately 1.7 to 1.8 million species. How many species are there? 1.7 to 1.8 million species, and you know that whatever number of species, just suppose in a confined area, just suppose you are going in a forested area, and in that forested area if you are looking that there are Just suppose so there may be many plants, different kind of plants. Some may be the larger trees, some may be the smaller flowering plants, or there may be some grasses. Okay, there you can see that there may be the tiger, elephant, deer, or there are so many insects also, lizards, snakes, crocodiles, all these things. So in an area, the number of species that are present in that area, that is known as what? That is known as the biodiversity of that area. Okay, what does biodiversity means? The number of species present in an area. And if you look at the whole world, so here we are talking about that. That is the 1.7 to 1.8 million species. Okay, so this is called as what? Biodiversity. So far we have learned two terms. Okay, what is species? So one individual can represent one species, and second is biodiversity. What is biodiversity? But here there are two potential questions that may be there. One is what? That what is the total number of species that are present? That is 1.7 to 1.8 million. Okay, and second question that may be asked, that what is the biodiversity? Okay, so these are the two potential or two important points that one must note down, that what is the biodiversity and what is the total number of species that are present. Okay, so now we are going to the next slide. Now see here. So you know that in an area, just suppose in this area, or as we are living here in India, so you know that we take a very common example. That is the mango. Okay, this mango word that can be means in local Hindi, if we talk, that is called as what? Okay. Similarly, when we are talking about the English, so it is known as what? Mango. But just see the diversity of the languages that is found all over the world. You will find this mango itself that can be known by many names, and this specific thing that can cause problems. Okay, so looking at this thing, what is being done, that the scientists, they have decided that we should follow certain rules and regulations. Okay, so that is the basic theme of this chapter. Okay, so here we see that if we are not assigning the specific name or scientific name, there may be problem when we are discussing about a individual or a group of individuals. Okay, maybe we are talking about the same individual, but because of the language, might be there are some confusions that may occur here. Okay, so just to avoid the confusion, there are certain consensus that were made. Let us see that how we can do that. See here. So there is one thing that is being done, that is the standardization of the name. Okay, and how we could standardize them? Actually, we have started naming them scientifically. Okay, and naming an individual or the specific species, that is known as what? Nomenclature. Okay, so here nomenclature is done. Okay, but if we are giving any name to any specific species, that should be identified properly. Okay, so here what is the key? First of all, you have to identify the characters of that species, and then we can give a name to them. Okay, so identification, and then there is nomenclature. Nomenclature means what? Naming. Okay, just suppose we human beings, we are known as what? Homo sapiens. Okay, or the musca domestica, that is common housefly. Okay, so that is having certain characteristics, and on the basis of those specific characteristics, what we are doing? We are identifying that species. Okay, now, so these are the two specific terms. Okay, and there may be, because these are very simple questions, they may be asked by the NEET itself, that what is nomenclature, okay, or what is identification. So here we have to remember that what is nomenclature and what is identification. Okay, so nomenclature is the naming of the species, scientific naming, okay, and then identification is that identifying the different characters by which we will identify them, okay, later on that this is this, okay, like that. Now we will come to the next part, okay. So in order to facilitate the study, they have or the scientists, they have established certain rules and regulations, okay, and let us find out what are those rules and regulations. And first of all, we should be aware that there are two bodies, okay, which are governing about the plants and animals, okay, and previously we have seen the questions about those governing bodies, and one governing body that is known as ICBN, okay, that is known as ICBN, and it is if we just expand it, so it is what International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. So in this International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, what is happening? The plants are identified and they are given the scientific name. Similarly, for the animals, there is ICZN, okay, and it is what International Code of Geological Nomenclature. Okay, so like that we have to remember these are the two nomenclatures. Okay, apart that there are many nomenclatures, okay, but at your level or in the NCERT, these two things that are being discussed, okay, so that is there. And here now, so what are those principles? Okay, let us talk about those principles. Okay, so when we are naming any species, so name of the species, just I discussed about two names, two very common names. Those are the Homo sapiens and second was what? Musca domestica. Actually, here you see that each scientific name that is having two word name. Okay, and the first word that is known as what? That is known as the generic name. Okay, and the second word is what? Specific epithet. Okay, so always generally you will find in the binomial nomenclature. This is known as what? Binomial nomenclature. Okay, so where what is happening? An individual, either it is the plant or the animal, that is given what? One name, okay, and that name is having two words. One is the generic name, or that is the genus, and second is the specific epithet or the species. Okay, and this is known as what? Binomial nomenclature, that is already written. And now, who was the scientist that who has given this procedure? That is the Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so Carolus Linnaeus basically he gave the binomial nomenclature. Okay, and the book which he published, that was what? Systema Naturae. Okay, so in that book all those things comes. Now, so by naming, by this binomial nomenclature, it becomes very convenient for the scientists, and it is also very good that we know a species by a unique name, which is universally accepted in the scientific community. Okay, and similarly here, one example that is given here. Here you can see this is Mangifera indica. Okay, now yes, you see that Mangifera is what? Mangifera is what? Generic name, okay, or the genus, and the indica is what? Specific epithet. Okay, so these are very important things. Now, one more thing, that we should be aware about the rules and regulations that are given by the scientists. Okay, first of all, the first rule that should be followed, that all the names they should be Latinized. First thing, which language we are going to use? That is Latin. And previously this question was asked by the NEET. Okay, that which in which language the scientific name is written. That can be modified in various ways. Okay. Now, second thing, it should be italicized. Previously, in the previous slide, I have shown you that the name Mangifera indica, that was italicized. Okay. And second rule that we can see, that the first word in the biological name represents the genus, and second component, that is the specific epithet, that I have already given you. And third thing, okay, when these names they are handwritten, okay, then in that case what we are doing, that should be underlined. But the underline means what? Separately. Genus separately underlined, and species that should be separately underlined. Okay, that is the thing. And fourth, the first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter. So the first word that we have seen in the Mangifera, that was what? That was capital. But in case of species, that the second word, that is of what? Species. That starts with small letter. Okay, so that we have to remember. Here in this example itself, this M is what? That is capital. But in second word, the first letter is, that is small. So all these rules should be followed, and in recent years we have seen all these things. Okay. Now, the question arises that many times we see that there is authority name that is also written there. Just suppose here this Mangifera indica lim. What is this lim? Actually, lim represents the Linnaeus. Actually, Linnaeus discovered this thing or named this thing. Okay, Mangifera indica. So this lim indicates the species first described by the Linnaeus. Okay, and it is also known as author or authority name. Okay, so many times you can see that the species name that can be written as like Mangifera indica lim also. Okay, so these are some of the rules that we have to follow. Now, this was about naming and its rules and regulations. Okay, the common rules and regulations, and what is nomenclature and what is identification. Now here we are going to see that what actually the classification is. Okay, the second term that we have to see just to study properly, because you know very well that there are thousands of species. We have already seen that there are how many species? 1.7 million to 1.8 million species. Can a person remember all those species? Generally, it is not possible. Just for the convenience of study, this whole diversity that has been classified. Okay, so let us first of all see that what actually the classification is. Okay, so to understand it well, okay, we are classifying the organism into different categories. Okay, so classification is what? For better understanding or for better convenience, what we are doing, we are categorizing the individual species, okay, or group of species into at various levels. Okay, let us see. So classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories. Okay, so we are grouping them into convenient categories. Okay, and in those categories you will see that there are certain observable characters. Okay, on behalf of those observable characters, we are putting into into a specific category. Okay, let us see that what are those specific characters or categories we are taking. So first of all, let us take the example. Okay, the first example is that is about the plant or animals. Okay, we can very well, or we can see in the our society or in just if you are going into any jungle or any area, we can very easily see that we can categorize them into the plants and animals. Sorry. So plants are having the specific characters. Similarly, animals are also having what? They are having the specific characters. Okay. So you know that the plants generally they are having the green color. Okay, and their cell wall that is having the cellulose. But you know the animals they are generally moving. Okay, and at molecular level if we see, then or at a cellular level if we see that there is no cell wall. Okay, like that. So generally we can identify or we can categorize. The first categorization, now we can say what is that first categorization? That is the plant and animal. Okay. Similarly, there is one example that we can differentiate between the dogs and cats also. That is also a category. Plant and animal, that is one category. And among animals we can see, if you look at the dog and the cat, then you can obviously see that they look very different. So they are also different species. Okay, so they are different categories. Similarly, the insects, they are also the animals, but they are having different characters, and that's why they are kept into different categories. So this categorization is why? This categorization is for the convenience of our study. Okay, they are having some specific characters so that we can study them. Okay, now the moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What does it mean? Whenever we are classifying certain organisms, so we are assigning certain characters. Just suppose, if I am asking you people that can you differentiate between a plant and animal? What is the basic thing that you are going to see? What we are going to see? The structure. But what kind of structure you are going to see? Actually, we cannot directly go for the cell wall. Okay. First of all, we are going to see that they are stagnant, their leaves are green. Okay. But when we try to compare ourselves, okay, we are moving. Okay. Generally, animals are moving and they are generally not of green color. They cannot do the photosynthesis. Okay. But these plants, they are doing this photosynthesis and they are nourishing themselves. But when it comes to the animals, that they are taking the plant parts and nourishing ourselves. Okay. Directly and indirectly, we animals are dependent on what? The plants, like that. Okay. So at every level, when we have to differentiate them, what we are doing? We are assigning certain characters to them. Okay. So the first thing that is visible, that is what? That is the green color. Okay. Or the movement, like that. Any character we can take into consideration. Now they are asking one thing, that what image do you see when you think of a dog? Generally, if someone is saying that either that dog is not right now present here, if I am saying that there is dog, so automatically there will be an image of dog in your mind. Okay. So similarly, when you are saying that cat, so the image of cat will be in front of you, and then you can even differentiate between them. Okay, that they are having their mouth structure that is different. Okay, and the body shapes, that is quite different. That how this dog looks like or how the cat looks like. Okay, so these differences, they are, or those characters, they are assigned to that specific species for the categorization of them. Okay, or for the better listening of them. Okay. Now in the last, now if we were to think of an Alsatian, we know what we are talking about. Alsatian is what? That is also a dog. Okay, Alsatian is a breed of a dog. Okay, so there are many breeds, no? So if we have to differentiate between among the dogs, okay, that different type of breeds are there. So you can differentiate in them also. Okay. Now we are kept into what category? We are the mammals. What is the specific characters because of which we are assigned this category mammals? Here you see that we are having the external ears and body hairs. Okay. These are the two specific characters that are found only in the mammals. Okay. That's why you see now that the way generally it looks or that appears as what? That appears as a fish. But the characters that are present in them, they are of what? Mammals. Okay. On its muzzle, you may find some hairs also, and this whale that is also having the mammary glands also. Okay, like that, and other characters also. Okay. So the mammals. Otherwise, you see that superficially that look like as fish. Now, plants. When we are talking about the plants, then we can talk about the wheat. Okay, when I am talking about the wheat, then you can imagine the wheat looks like what it looks like. Okay, that comes that into the our mind. Okay, so when we are categorizing these animals or the plants, that specific category is known as what? That is known as taxa. So here, this is a very important term for you. That what is taxa? Taxa is what? Taxa is a category. And during the classification, one species can have many categories of taxa. So this category and taxa is what? That is synonymous. Okay. So here we are going to discuss now about various taxa. Okay. So various levels of the taxa I am going to discuss now. Now see. So as you know that we are assigning taxa to or category to specific organism. So it is also known as, or this process is known as what? Taxonomy. Assigning specific taxa or category to an individual, that process is known as what? Taxonomy. That is clearly written. This process of classification is known as what? Taxonomy. Okay. And hence characteristic, categorization, identification, classification and nomenclature are the processes that are basic to the taxonomy. So in the taxonomy of an individual, we are going to all this. Okay. Now, and we know that why we started this taxonomy. Actually, the purpose of the taxonomy or categorization was for the purpose of what? That whether they are beneficial for us or not. Okay. So here, that is the basic purpose. You know that in the ancient time, when Carolus Linnaeus was not or he has not given this binomial nomenclature, still there was a categorization. That what was that common categorization? Like that the people they used to categorize these animals and plants into two categories. One was beneficial and another was harmful. Okay, but as the knowledge of the human being that came up, so what happened? The things they got, so they got enhanced. Okay, the knowledge got enhanced. So what you can see that human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationship among them. Okay, so this branch of study where we are doing all these things, that is known as what? Systematics. Okay, and this is the book which was written by the Linnaeus, that is known as Systema Naturae. Okay, and now there is a time of break. Okay, so after a break we will further meet. Okay.